Good morning, Jody. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Thank you so much for participating in this interview. I'm sure the students and the audience they're going to get a lot out of it. So before we begin, just a little bit of housekeeping. I'd like to ask this or give this statement before each interview. If at any time you do not wish to disclose information for any reason, please let me know, and we'll move on to the next question. My goal is to seek meaningful and relevant information from industry leaders such as yourself in many disparate fields. So the first question, I guess we're going to talk a little bit about personal information. Please tell me a little about yourself and your business.
All right. Well, I've been a musician all my life, and I was living in New York City from 1985. 1985 to 2008. So that was my professional life as a professional musician and teacher, professional musician. And I met a man named Santi Runyon, who was a mouthpiece maker. And he mentored me. He got me into mouthpieces. And I found out he customized a mouthpiece for me. And that's what got me into this. I was amazed at what he could do with it. So I went all in the business. I started in 2000. And JodyJazz began in New York City, and in 2008 I moved it down here. As far as I still play all the time, I have a family with 3 young children, and we live here in Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, that's fantastic. Pardon me. So you design mouthpieces.
Yes.
And do you have any engineering background, or is it just from a performer you know what works?
It's more from a performer, and then now through thousands of trial and error, and just learning it that way. Mm-hmm. I learned in those early years when I started, I was making a mouthpiece in Santi Runyon's factory. So I would travel 8 times a year from New York down to the factory and work all day in the factory, and then I would go and hang out with Santi Runyon. He was in his 90s in these years. He was totally alert and everything, but I would learn from his crew in the factory, and then I would learn from Santi about mouthpieces, and mostly with Santi about refacing. And when you learn refacing, you learn you're learning what really makes the mouthpiece sing, what parts are super important.
And this factory, where is the factory, if you can geographically?
The Runyon factory was Opelousas, Louisiana, near Lafayette.
Oh, okay.
And our factory now is Savannah, Georgia. But so I learned through a player's point of view and trial and error, and then worked early on with a machinist on one of my first mouthpieces, the DV, that was one of my very first totally original mouthpieces. So, working with an engineer that knows the software, that's still how I do it.
Right, that's fantastic. In case anybody wants to check these out, what's your website so people can go to?
It's JodyJazz.com, JodyJazz.com.
Okay. Why did you decide to participate in your sector of the music industry?
Well, I think do what you know, do what you love, and it fell into this just natural thing for me. It was lucky that I played mouthpieces that were more or less middle of the road in the jazz community, so that what I like, people like. So I don't know if I chose it chose me in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask this last personal question here. What skills and attributes enabled you to thrive?
Well, creativity is the number one thing that surprised me so much about business. And I was an improvising jazz musician, so right. I felt I knew everything about creativity. But I think, and I have a TEDx talk about this that's 12 minutes.
Oh, fantastic.
You just type in Jody Espina and TED Talk in Google, and it'll come up. But I was in the middle of a successful New York City musician's career. I played everywhere and did some Broadway subbing and all kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I was really hustling, and I started to get burnt out, I think. And also, I felt that my creativity was just based in music. I had no other talents or skills. And I did this book called The Artist's Way, which was written for blocked writers. And you do 12 weeks of exercises that help bring out your creativity. And that's really when I started opening up, and that led me to take this trip where I met Santi Runyon. I just started doing things differently. And so then when I got into business, and I had this musician's view of business people, where they were maybe soulless, greedy, money-hungry people. And I found out, I started going to the NAMM show,
right?
Almost the first year I started business. And so I've met so many great people, and it really changed my outlook on what business is and how creative you have to be every single day.
Right.
So I think that if I had to say anything, is creativity and not being afraid to do things you've never done before.
Mm-hmm.
Write all the copy to a website and try and communicate what your position is. Write ads. I still write all our ads, and and of course the creativity in products and naming them, and you've got to have a lot of other skills, but that's the number one for me.
That's great. Great answer. So we're going to move on to general business questions now. How would you define your customer segments? So, in percussion, it might be mass market, jazz, rap, school band.
Sure. We have segments in all people who play saxophone, except pretty much the classical players, which we're working on a new
mm-hmm.
something.
Okay.
So we start with our product is called our hard rubber HR Star. We have two products, HR Star and the Jet, which go into your main stores around the world, and in this country, in the United States, in large chains and on the biggest online retailers and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's priced under $200. The pricing in this situation is really important. If I wasn't trying to reach this segment, I would price this particular two mouthpieces higher, considerably higher.
Yeah.
So they're not my most. I don't make my most profit on them, but they keep me in this segment, which is the school band,
right.
band, college. And if I go over that too much of $200, I'm just kind of out of that market. So, but I gained my reputation really back in around 2005. I created a mouthpiece called a DV, which is over $500 mouthpiece.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I think I was the only one that had a price like that. I've got a patent in it. It's an amazing mouthpiece. And so I created the image of the company in a way a lot of people still don't know that we have that under $200 segment.
Yeah.
So they think of us as a very high-end company. So I built the image of the company with this super high-end, super performing mouthpiece. And then came down to the other segment. So we've got that school band segment. Then we have the professional segment that play those same mouthpieces that are in the school band segment, or the top end DV. We have another mouthpiece that lives in the middle in the $350 range. But so after the school band segment, we've got the pros and we've got the adult amateurs, which I'm going to say that the adult amateur market is as big, or if not bigger, than any of our markets. There just aren't that many professional saxophones players to buy the mouthpieces, and most of those players have a mouthpiece that they've been playing for 20, 30 years. When they finally come around, many of them go, "Oh my God, I didn't know this was possible. I haven't tried a mouthpiece in 30 years." And
so it's probably talking about demographics, they might be older, have more disposable income.
Yes. A lot of that, and worldwide, it really shocked me how many saxophone players there are.
Yeah.
In China, for example, flute is a more popular instrument, I think, in the United States. In China, the saxophone is more popular than flute. And Korea, so many Asian countries, the saxophone is really one of the most popular instruments. So that's been very good for us to sell into Asia.
Yeah, I did not know that. Let me ask one follow-up question. When you're giving pricing, $200, $350, $500, is that list price or is that street price? That's what the consumer pays.
That's list price and what the consumer pays.
Okay.
We've worked a thing where our MAP policy. Well, I won't talk about that, but we have basically the way our product works is that the price you see, the list price, is the price that it's sold for, and that varies in other countries because of currency fluctuations and everything. But basically, we're like Apple Computer and Bose. Yeah. And the price is the price. And when I started, I was really concerned with the demise of brick and mortar stores, and I didn't want somebody to have to carry a product and not be able to make anything on it.
Right.
If you can't make anything on it, you have a lot of overhead.
That's right.
And the store is a beautiful thing. I loved the store when I was a kid, and I'd go in there and look and be so excited and be able to try things. And the store, if we don't support our brick and mortars, go away. So that was my goal in doing that, and it's worked out.
That's great. Which non-industry influences most affect your industry? Is it community, legislation, regulation?
Okay. I guess that whatever influences school music programs, and basically we're talking United States right now.
Right.
Okay. So whatever, if the school music program is thriving, then our industry is good. So that is legislation and school budgets and everything. During the 2008 recession, or 2009 recession, we'll say, the music products industry suffered greatly. And I know that my segment better than others, but some saxophone companies, major companies, were down maybe 50%.
Wow.
Yes. And most accessories, we have a mouthpiece, a saxophone mouthpiece that's an accessory. Most accessory companies were only down 10%. And we fared very well through that. So, and that school band and orchestra segment actually fared better than any of the other segments in the music products. So the schools kept kind of ticking. Excuse me. All right.
This segues nicely to the next question. What sectors of your industry are growing and which are slowing? So school band would likely be growing.
Well, for me, growing definitely, because even though we're coming into our 17th year, we're still a new company. Our competitors, two of them are from France, and they're over 100 years old. The one is a competitor has these legacy brands that were played by John Coltrane and Cannonball Adderley, and they're way old. So that's what band directors know. So we're growing because we have so much room to grow. And as far as the school band, I don't know if it's growing as far as numbers of kids in seats. I'm not sure about that.
But your market share in that is because you're
my market shares, because I'm just out there shaking trees for the fruit to fall off.
Well, you're always in trade shows. I'm always bumping into you at different ed shows and things like that.
Yeah, and whenever I can, I get into the band room. I rely on ed reps, which are the guys that go, they work for a school music dealer, school music store. They have accounts. They go to the band room. they might have 40 accounts or even more, and they go to each band room once a week or sometimes 2 a week. But they go out there and they deliver rentals. They deliver if the guy needs reeds or the lady needs whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They're out there all the time. So when I have a good relationship with a school music dealer, they might bring me out and I'll do a clinic with the class, or I might sit in with the jazz band and coach them, or just try and put a face on the name, and that helps a lot.
Well, you're really making this go fairly easy, because that segues nicely into the next question. How do you create value for your customers? And surely being there and performing with them is a value proposition.
Yes. And on the website from the beginning, we tried to write it so it could really explain much more. When I got into it, I looked at many of the websites at that time, and there was very little explanation of anything. I think the manufacturers were thinking, we'll let the store do the educating. Mm-hmm. But I thought about it, and I tried to do the educating from the beginning. And I put under resources in the website, there are free online lessons, there's tips and things. So, yeah, that part of the value, I think, is added. But, I mean, what I feel like our company, we have a guy, which is me, which used to be a consumer. I was out there and I'd go to the store and try mouthpieces. And our industry, in the mouthpiece industry, has been kind of plagued with a consistency issue. And a mouthpiece is so critical. The curve where the reed vibrates, and right inside, it's such tight tolerances that you can't imagine. It's more than the aerospace industry. We have to have that mouthpiece, the next one, play the same. We have to have tolerances that are unbelievable, and we still have much handwork. So, professionals and teachers know quite well, if they have a mouthpiece and they tell their student to go get that brand, it may not be the same. And so I got in, and I felt like, well, I'm this guy. I used to be on the other side of this. I'm going to be the consumer's advocate. I'm going to be in there fighting tooth and nail with the quality, with the consistency issue. So my added value is we play test every single mouthpiece, and we're just fighting for the consumer.
So that's good. So that's the next question. How do you differ from your competitors? So it sounds like you really place a lot of emphasis on consistency.
Definitely. And, when we go to do the prototype, I don't have to have a committee. I don't have to send it out to 4 different people who have different ideas. And when you do that by committee, you're definitely going to get 4 different ideas.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a player in charge, then who knows which one to pick?
Absolutely. Can you describe your sales channels?
Sure. When we started, and I had to place, you have to start pricing. I mean, pricing is a science, but you've got to figure out what your list price is, your MSRP, suggested retail price. You've got to decide at that moment, when you first put your prices together, what are your channels going to be? Mm-hmm. Am I going to go to distributors, which typically the traditional distributor thing, they might want 66 2/3% off of that list price. Mm-hmm. So if you need to know what you need to make in order to stay in business, and then you'd set your list price. If you were going to go to distributors, you'd set the list price accordingly. Now, that is the way a lot of products are, and then you'll see that they never seem to sell at that list price. That list price gets knocked down quite a bit. So you have the chance to go to distributors, or you go direct to the stores. Okay, you can do that, or you can go direct to the customer. So you've got to decide. So what I decided in the beginning was I was going to put my list price where I needed it to be, and I could sell direct to stores, and I wasn't going to do distributors. And it was a way where I don't have to put the list price as high.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that the store doesn't get the same discount as a distributor. They don't buy as much at a time, and they're happy with their discount. They're getting a good discount, and so that's how I did it. And we started, in this country. But the first year in business, I took a trip to Europe, and I went door to door.
Yeah.
So in almost all countries, we go direct to stores, but we have an exclusive distributor in China, and in Sweden, and a few countries.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't necessarily go to that traditional distribution number when we do that.
Right.
But,
right. And that's accessory number.
Yeah. So that's it. I mean, mostly we go direct to stores,
mm-hmm.
and we have a website where people can buy online. And the reason we do that is most stores aren't going to carry our extreme. A mouthpiece comes in tip openings, the same model. So you might have from 5 to 10. Now, the 5, 6, 7, 8, or 5, 6, 7 might be your most popular sellers, and that might be all a store wants to carry.
Mm-hmm.
10, we don't sell many in a year. The store's never going to carry it.
Right. They don't get the turns on it.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily returns. They just
turns. The volume, the velocity.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. So somebody who's who can't get their store to buy that or something, they
mm-hmm.
can buy it from us and try it. They can still return it.
Yeah.
But we're very careful never to kind of undercut the dealers. We never put anything on sale. We don't sell any B stock, which means something that came back in a scratch or something. Or so that thing just stays there and doesn't really cause any problems.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what that's for.
So you personally, can you describe your revenue streams?
Let me see. Give me a couple examples.
Well, you have retail sales, you have commerce, you have recordings, you get mechanicals. Have you published a book? Do you do any licensing? So what type of revenue streams?
Okay. I mean, the vast majority is coming from our dealers through mouthpiece sales. Mm-hmm. We have some publishing that I did. I was always a jazz educator, and
mm-hmm.
when I got into this, one of my endorsers, George Garzone, who was one of my teachers, he had a method that was an amazing improvisation method. And he's the kind of guy that's not going to sit down and write a book. He's a musician. He can talk about it all day. So I had one of his students who was kind of one of his disciples in this method, the triadic chromatic approach.
Okay.
And this is like George Russell's method of Lydian concept. It's in a way complex and in a way super simple. But anyway, we made a DVD of that. I produced it, I directed it, and hired the musicians. And that led to another and another, and some play-alongs where you get to trade with the artist. So this whole little series of publishing, it is a revenue stream. And then what else do we have? Besides the mouthpieces,
probably any performances you still perform.
Me personally, I perform. So that's another revenue stream. I have it in Savannah, if anybody's ever here, every Friday and Saturday night at a Cuban restaurant. I've been there 5.5 years. So whenever I'm in town, I have a gig, and that's great. Keep me playing.
The reason I like to ask that is I want to impress upon the audience that you're really a classic example of someone who is creating their own opportunities. And that's really what it comes down to, this whole thing. So switching gears, what threats loom in your industry? You have desktop publishing, 3D printers, piracy, etc.
Definitely. And I've been really concerned about 3D printing. And recently I went down to a company. I was getting a classic mouthpiece scanned, and it was actually one of my customers' mouthpieces, and we scanned it. And I said, guys, sell me a printer for my business. And they said, we can't. It's not viable yet, and it shouldn't be viable for at least 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
I have a $500,000 CNC machine. I've got 3 CNCs, but the big one is $500,000. So I have a lot of money in this, and I want to be sure that the 3D printer is just not going to turn us on our ear. So I've been looking at it. Should I be in it from the beginning? But there's nothing I can do right now to my quality that makes sense right now. So as long as I get my kids through college, that's what I'm.
Right.
No, we'll keep our eye close on that. As far as piracy, China's one of our biggest markets. We're selling very well into there, and our high-end mouthpiece sells well there. Surprisingly, because the average income is not equal to the West. But what people have to remember is that there's the one-child policy. Every person is an only child there, and that person has two sets of grandparents, uncles on both sides. Everybody puts money into the kid. So if they need a $600 mouthpiece and they've progressed enough, they might get it. But being over in China so much, we've had a lot of copying. And if you go each year to the China show, walk around, you'll see who got copied this year.
Yeah.
Especially with ligatures, for example. Very distinctive ligatures, they get copied and they're out the next year. Of our DV, our top-end mouthpiece, there's 3 copies that I know of. Now, copy is not a counterfeit. They can copy it and they can list it on their Taobao, which is a sales website, kind of like eBay or something. They can list it as a copy of JodyJazz, and it can look exactly like, as long as it doesn't have JodyJazz on it. And the counterfeits we're not so sure about. We haven't seen anything yet. We've seen patent infringement, and when they come here to the United States, I can shut it down. I've got copyrights in foreign companies of my name, so if they put a JodyJazz on it, we can shut it down.
Right.
We can shut down the patent infringements that come into this country. But
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that segues into the next question. So your approach to risk management. Describe your approach to risk management. So you do have a patent, but the patent isn't an international, because you can get 2 patents, I think, right? You can get domestic and then international.
Well, you got to go to each country. So if I'm going to get a patent in Japan and China and Korea, and I go broke. So
right.
You do what you do, and then in a mouthpiece, most mouthpieces aren't patented. It's like a tennis racket. Did you do something, or a golf
unique
club?
And novel.
How different. You might have something patentable, and you might not. And when you have something patentable, you've got to decide whether you're going to patent it or not, because that's a real commitment. If you do it, then it means you're going to enforce that patent, which means every time you see an infringement, you've got to go after it, which means hiring your lawyer. It was cost a lot of money, that patent, but it's been very worth it, actually. And so risk management, when I first saw that question, I was like, I don't know. I don't have any risk management. But then I thought, well, it's like people who invest in stocks. They diversify. You diversify so that whatever segment of the market goes down, maybe another segment is up. And globally, we're spread out as much as we can be. So we're everywhere in the globe, and some of those markets are just developing. Brazil has a lot of potential, but we've gone 3 years in a row to their trade show. We're the only American company that's gone down there.
Wow.
Because the products down there, the import taxes are so great that it makes it very difficult to compete down there.
Yeah, isn't it 60%?
My product would be 80% by the time the consumer got it, through the different import duties and shipping duties. Every time they import it, there's tax. Yeah. But we're there. We have a great presence, and when that changes, we're going to be solidly. They have at least 3 solid companies of their own. What they did with that import duties, they kept other businesses
Sure.
out. They let their own industries develop. So, Latin America for me has a lot of potential, especially, it's all depends. Like Argentina's starting to come out of their deep kind of recession, deep problems. So we had business there before, and then it just almost died, and now maybe it's starting up again. But all these countries have sax players, and there's a couple of companies, worldwide music products companies in my segment of the woodwinds or brass winds that are pretty well established in the ground everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's my goal. Risk management is being everywhere, and then I think my risk management is always looking long term. I'm not, since the day I started, it was trying to look long term. How do I make this with a company with legs? How do I make this last when I'm gone? And so it's risk management is hiring really good people. I think it's doing everything
another way.
as well as you can. And if I want to know what are some other people's risk management. Tell me what would be a classic risk management strategy.
Basically, the things that you are talking about. We've had people talk a little bit about even just as basic as antivirus software. So everybody does their own different things. Copyright, patenting, protecting your own intellectual property, I think, is a key way. Insurance, when you're selling to big distributors, or do you carry an insurance policy for loss if it goes belly up? I mean, when a couple major chains went, your credit department, that's another way. I mean, there are dozens and dozens of ways to do it. You can talk of whether supply chain, what you're doing there. So without getting into the weeds. So I just wanted to see what you do specifically.
Yeah. Well, my business was much more nimble than some of the big instrument manufacturers who got burned when those big companies went out of business. And so it's a whole different game. And I'm a guy who's known as a guy who wants to get paid. So when those guys started getting funny, I stopped shipping, or I just shipped COD. I was shipping COD to anybody who's funny, and then when they go out of business, they don't owe me anything.
Yeah, it's another way to mitigate loss.
Sometimes you need to work with somebody, but usually I'm not that guy.
Yeah. So normally, so you're your credit manager.
Yeah.
So how do you find customers?
Trade shows is probably the first way. Getting out to a location where everybody comes. So very from the beginning almost, I went to Music Messe. I went to NAMM, of course, and then Music Messe in Frankfurt was a tremendous show, and that really got me my international business. Music Messe has changed to the point this year we're going to share in a booth. We've always had a very nice booth. We have somebody build it for us. We serve coffee and beer and wine. It's very different over there.
Yep.
But this year, I'm not going. My vice president of sales and marketing is going, and we're going to share in a booth of like companies.
Right.
And because it's shrunk tremendously, and it's a very interesting question why. But it's not the powerhouse that it was, and I think it may disappear.
Well, it's certainly more of a regional show, and it's gone. I had been going there since the mid-'90s, and I've watched it change over the years, and now it's really a regional European show, and it's really more of a consumer show.
Well, most of our even German dealers aren't going. And as far as the consumers, they may come in for the rock instruments or the combo instruments, but they're not coming in any numbers in our segment. So it's almost gone. But we've been going to the China show. I always had a distributor in China, and I've been there for a long time, but I used to let them deal with it because it's so different in China. So many of the people that come up to the booth just want to know how much is it. And if it's not dirt cheap, they just, but I think about 6 years now in a row, we've been having our own booth. Our distributor's there selling our products in a big booth, and we're in a small booth representing the brand. I do performances so that's what I do at a lot of the trade shows now. I'll play a little bit in the booth, have some of my endorsers, if they're there, play. And usually at these venues, there's a large stage opportunities to make concerts.
Right.
So, and in China, when you're playing, everybody's got their video camera out, and that goes out. And so that kind of promotion is why we're there in the China show. And that show is becoming very important. And we see people from even Europe there now, and all over Asia and Australia. So it's a really important show. So that's how we get our customers. That's one way. The other way is we go to these educational shows like the TMEA, which is Texas Music Educators Association. They throw a thing once a year with their all-state kids. We're going in a couple weeks to the Chicago Midwest Band Clinic in Chicago every year. We go to about 5 or 6 of the biggest shows, FMEA in Florida. Some of the shows are so small that it's tough to get out there. You want to go to the shows where the kids know about the exhibits, they're excited, and they come in and see them, and hopefully you get to see a few band directors and things. And the other ways is, of course, traditional marketing, which from the beginning I put ads in the traditional magazines that I knew people would be looking at. And we make videos on YouTube are super important.
Yeah, the engagement's really high, I think, when you have
that.
Yeah.
And post them, on Facebook. We have a company Facebook page, and I have a personal page. My personal page has 5,000 saxophone players.
That's great.
From around the world. And that's a really fast way for me to get out information on a new product. In the beginning, some of my customers were coming from an online forum called Sax on the Web. And that's how they first heard about this mouthpiece that Santi Runyon had customized for me. And that's kind of how it started. But those forums, most people know that those forums can turn into live by the sword, die by the sword. Right. People aren't very polite there. And it's just so I got out of there years ago. You can't go in there and look. My brother told me a thing long ago. He said, don't believe, the worst things that people say about you, and don't believe the best things they say about you.
Yeah, that's it.
It's like stay grounded. So I think, those, a lot of online methods of advertising now, and I don't think we're in the forefront of that, which, we need to, as the world changes, we have to take those marketing dollars and reallocate. I can't just keep all the print ads that I had and then add all the online stuff that I should be doing. Search engine status was amazing for us for many years because when I started, I programmed that website myself.
Wow,
and
that's great.
It captured our SEO, search engine, whatever the O stands for. Search engine optimization, we didn't need it. Guys would call me and say, well, check out our words. We're number one.
Yeah.
When we just built a new website because Google is coming out with these new. Is this getting too technical?
No, I think this is great.
Okay, Google is coming out with new rules that if your website is not dynamic, meaning that whatever device you pull the website up on, whether it's a phone, a tablet, a laptop, computer, whatever, the website needs to know, and the website needs to be completely optimized for that. So, and you can't we had kind of 2 websites. One worked very well on phones, but it was a little kind of separate thing. The user didn't know it, but Google said, no way, if you do that, we're going to downgrade your status. So in doing this and going on to the WordPress format of websites, we had to change our domain names and things, and we lost that beautiful #1 status. Okay, so but the deal is if you type in any word related to our search phrases, you're going to see Jody Jazz all over, but it's through other retailers that are selling it and other places. And so we're up there, but our myjodyjazz.com domain might not come up yet unless you search directly for it. But that drove me nuts to lose that because we had beautiful, the best.
Well, and maybe it'll change again and you can recoup that.
Could be.
So how would your customers rate your customer service and why?
We really get high marks because we don't have contempt at all for the customer. In my mind, the customer is always right.
Right.
And if we ever have a mistake that we've made, or if the customer has a problem, I say to everybody that works for me, that's an opportunity. Don't look at it as, this cranky customer. Look at it as an opportunity to fix this customer's problem and make them a loyal friend for life.
Yeah.
And our number one person in the office is Danielle, who plays saxophone. She's a very good saxophonist. She has a 6-night-a-week job at a local theater here, playing music, and she comes out to some of the shows. She's tremendous with the customers and great. So, and that's been important. That first person you call or that you talk to at the company is very important to me. So everybody gets treated very well, and our customers, let's say our dealers, it's the same thing. If you got a problem, we're going to fix it, and we're going to pay for it, and we're going to make it right. And, nobody can be 100% perfect with everything. We might every once in a while send a shipment somewhere or whatever.
It happens, yeah.
But we have all these checks and balances, these, the things get double checked, and as far as the shipping, all these things in place, so we really don't mess up too much. But like I say, when we do, we'll take responsibility, we'll fix it.
That's great. So the last question on general business, and you basically answered this earlier. How closely do your marketing, sales, artist relations, customer service, and production teams work with one another? And you seem to have your hand in everything.
Yes, definitely. We've worked to the point where I don't have to answer daily emails, and what I want my job to be is R&D, research and development, working on new products, and that the outside sales representing the company, like Colonel Sanders represents Kentucky Fried Chicken, but we have like 4 offices up front, then we have the factory space in back. So we need to bring in our foreman and our engineer, work with the front office to talk about production, and then design. I work with those guys. I work also with our Colin, who's our VP of Sales and Marketing. You know Colin. Yeah. He's a seasoned pro. He's the real music products professional in our company. So he's my counsel. I use him a lot to bounce things off, and but I guess we have to work hand in hand all the time, daily. It's not so big we can't just walk into each office and let's have a little mini conference or something. We do sit down, although I've been to some training things where they say don't have sit down meetings, they take too long, you're wasting time, all stand up meetings. So the original question is, what is it?
How closely do your marketing, sales, artist relations, customer service, and production teams work with one another?
Yeah, probably couldn't be closer. In our little company. Yeah.
So we're gonna talk a little bit about international business. I have 4 questions on that. Do you do business in different countries? The answer was yes. And if so, how many?
How many countries? Yeah. Offhand, I don't know. All European countries, many of the Eastern Bloc countries. Russia, we had great business in Russia until their problems recently. So so that's this thing there where they have a light on the ground and you're doing well, and then that light goes out for a while because of political things that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in all over Asia, South America, most of the countries, but some of those countries are still pretty small. So
at least a few dozen for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You take every country in Europe, and we have a good presence in every major Asian country, including Indonesia and Malaysia. I'm taking a trip in June to kind of go to that segment. Thailand, we're there already, but it's Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia, Jakarta, and the cities around there, and probably Philippines, Manila. So it's going to be a big Asian trip.
Nice.
So I don't know how many it is, but it's a lot.
So what's your impression of negotiation styles in the different regions? Have you noticed anything?
Definitely.
Okay.
You've got different styles, and when I first went to Asia, I got a book on business etiquette and things and it was specific to each country there, different. So I've always been aware to try and kind of know a little bit before you get there of what the style might be and what's considered polite. A lot of these etiquette things that were in this book when I started, let's say 15 years ago, many of the younger people in Asia don't even kind of go by them anymore.
Right.
It's a little more loose and it's a little more Western. It's not so formal, but still want to be aware of these things. The negotiating style, I'm not going to name names here.
Sure, that's good.
I'm not going to name countries here because I can give you a list and I'll say this country and these guys do this, these guys do this. You have to not take it personally.
Right.
Don't take it personally, and I mean, you have to. I guess everybody has their own style, way of going to do it, and people can say these things in their negotiating style. They're going to come at you with the reasons why they can't sell you,
right?
The reasons why your price is too high.
That's their job.
And they're going to come battering at you, and they might have two guys, and you might have bad cop and bad cop, but I'm just usually, sitting back and listening and smiling, and at the end of a 20-minute diatribe, they'll go, okay, here's what we want to order.
Yeah, exactly.
Big order. After I've said, well, I'm not saying we don't ever negotiate, but you got to hold your line, let them go through their stuff, and then see what you got to do. But it's important not to get unnerved by this technique.
Right.
It's cultural. They have to do it, and they're hopefully get a better deal for themselves. And we should learn as Westerners who are not brought up with the same negotiating style.
Right.
We should try and learn from that. That the squeaky, the silent wheel doesn't get any oil. If you bring up something and you complain, you might get a better deal.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's a great answer. How do tariffs and regulations affect your industry?
They do quite a bit. And it gets really complicated. For example, if we just recently got with a big online seller in Europe, and when they're selling all over Europe, and they sell into Sweden, or they sell into the UK, or whatever country, each of those countries has a different VAT, value-added tax.
Yeah.
So Sweden has a 25% VAT. Everything you buy in Sweden has 25% knocked on the top of it.
Yep.
And I have a great presence in Sweden, a great distributor. I've been there 4 times, promoting the business and everything. And so that creates this real problem when this online retailer just charges the same thing in every place.
Yeah.
And with the VAT included at the whatever the price listed is. So
and that's typically that's normal there. Wherever you go, they always roll it in, and I don't know if that's to obfuscate or but it's
rolled in, but it's coming out of the dealer's pocket.
Yeah.
So it's we have to pay attention to that, and we have to go in and say this and that, and we're trying to make it a fair playing field the way it is here in the United States for our dealers on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It's these online stores are just a fact of life, and we can't ignore them because have become an important segment. And so what we do is just try and deal with that stuff. So, and then tariffs in like I said, Brazil is really the most extreme tariff that is an impediment. In light of the new election, the president-elect Trump is talking a lot about trade, and in the business community, as an exporter, I'm very nervous about that. If he starts a trade war where another company like China or some country like China puts up a big tariff, that'll just stop our business.
Yeah, protectionism isn't really good for anyone. I thought you were going to talk about, you mentioned Brazil, but they just had elections. And from what I'm told from people we work with down there is that they're going to look at these onerous restrictions. I mean, because really it affects the Brazilian consumers. How many times do you get calls saying, would like to get this, but it's too expensive? So, what degree do you and your company value cultural sensitivity and a worldview?
You can probably answer that from my other answers. I think have traveled a lot and just appreciate people. And you get to know that people are people, but they have differences culturally, but they're still just people. And so, I don't know, I think we're 100% sensitive to it. When I come up with a name for a new product, I try and research it in other languages. Ford made a car years ago called the Nova. And in Spanish, Nova means doesn't go.
That's right.
And so I came up with the Jet recently for a product name because it's the same in every language. Jet is every language.
I was reading a book that had a bunch of examples like that. Direction of the industry. How has your industry changed over the past 20 years?
Let's see. How has it changed over the past 20 years?
Has it gotten bigger, smaller, more refined, consumers sharper, developing markets?
The consumer is more aware because of the information available online. I think, I'm trying to think, and I don't have, what's some things you see, and I'll jog my...
Well, I think there's been a bigger change towards band and orchestral, at least from the music products industry. So I've seen that. From the drum set industry, there was electronic music. So for a number of years, and I think it's changed, electronic drum sets were really popular. And now they've actually kind of gone away, and now more traditional sounds are coming.
Right. I've been so laser focused on my part of it.
Yeah, and that's fine.
That in our industry, like you said, is just chugging along and has grown. The accessories business has been recognized as a really strong part of the industry. The band and orchestra accessory business as well. But so it's been a great performer during the lean times.
Sure. I'd say it's pretty much recession-proof because you have the turns, you have the velocity. If they don't have the money to get a new saxophone, they could get a new mouthpiece.
Exactly.
And make it sound better. So and I'm very sensitive to your time, so I just have a few more questions here. How do you think the landscape of your industry will change in the next 10 years?
Let's see. How is it going to change in the next 10 years? Well, people are going to be buying from their phone more and more. It's already over 50%. People are purchasing from a mobile device rather than a computer. And so that everything they want, everything right now on their phone. So we all have to learn to deliver everything on their phone. That's going to be the way it's going to be. Maybe it's going to be Google-type glasses. But that's one way. Everything you got to think about is on a phone.
Yeah, the technology is with the software you can have on an iPad, and you can read music.
Yeah, sure.
From it. That's just wild.
And that 3D printing may come into a degree where the local music store has a 3D printer and can print out picks and certain things. They'll just print you the product. They can do that with sheet music too.
Yeah.
They should already have that. But I guess the innovative internet technologies that are coming through 3D printing. But I don't really, just like you say, band and orchestra is kicking strong. Real instruments are going to be here. The digital pianos that are coming out are so amazing sounding, and you don't have to tune them. But there's still going to be plenty of both, plenty real pianos. Real instruments are not going away.
No.
So that's going to just stay the same.
So in what ways are you preparing for these changes?
I'm just trying to keep my eyes open. And as we add new products, we're trying to get to the different segments in my world. We're coming out a product, this NAM, that goes to the more or less the smooth jazz player. Being not a smooth jazz player, but playing on funk and rock gigs, I know the world, but we haven't necessarily catered to it. So that was just trying to cover that segment, staying up on what's happening musically.
This last section here, I have, there's seven questions, and you can go as in-depth as you'd like. Information to help students who want to enter the music industry. So one is, what traits do you look for in new associates and partners?
When I'm out talking to young people in a band or wherever, I say the number one and most important thing is attitude. If you have a good attitude, that can just take you a long way. So good attitude means if you say, jump, it's almost, it's how high. It's that you're in there and you want to participate. You want to do whatever you need to do to make the team successful. And it took me a while to learn this. And the way I learned this was in New York. I did tons of weddings, and I played these weddings, and they were a drag sometimes. You'd be playing some corny music, or I felt like I wasn't getting enough solo space, or whatever.
Right.
How do you get a musician to complain? You give them a gig. So I may be playing the gig, but I might not be having the best attitude, and that's just, it could be body language, or it could be just grousing complaining at the break or something. And in New York, you're playing often with guys who are either on Broadway or who've just come off the road with a famous player. You're playing with, I played with two of the guys just on weddings, two of the guys at different times that played on the David Letterman band.
Wow.
They were Saturday night. They didn't have anything to do. They'd do a gig.
Play a wedding. Wow.
And now Tom Bones Malone is one of our endorsers. He plays, a lot of people don't know, he plays baritone sax. So, but I met him on a gig. Anyway, I'd be doing these gigs, and what I didn't realize is that my medium or mediocre attitude probably kept me from some guy, the drummer, from calling me to go down and do a recording session or something. Nobody's going to call you if you don't have a great attitude.
Yeah.
when I finally realized that, things started to change.
Everything's an audition.
Everything is an audition. Everything, no matter if you're out with your co-workers and you're getting coffee, if your attitude is bad, I don't want to work with that person.
Absolutely.
If you're at the restaurant and you're ordering and you're rude to the waiter, I don't want to do business with that person. So attitude is everything. That's the number one. Number two is a work ethic.
Yeah.
Work ethic. You're not afraid of hard work. Just do it, get in, and get it done. So those are the two most important things I look for in an employee.
And what skills do you look for? So those were the traits. What skills? Any particular skills?
Nobody has the skills that we need as far as our handwork in the back. If we're talking about that part of the work, there's hardly anybody that knows how to do what we do. So we train them. So in that part of the thing, we're looking for somebody who can work with their hands. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we just have to get them in and see. Yeah. As far as upfront skills or sales skills, I'm the worst at hiring because I have great people, right. But I'll tell you, my instincts when somebody comes in and if they kind of have a sad sack story, I feel terrible for them. I want to hire them. And so now I have a little team with me.
Yeah. That'd be good risk management. Yeah.
Yes, that's risk management. They ask the questions, the hard questions that I hate to ask.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to ask, what's your biggest weakness? Watch people squirm. So I just sit back and we do it as a committee.
Right.
Because I know that's not one of my skills. So, and that's important to know if you're a leader. Delegate everything that you can, but know when you can't do something and don't do it.
You gotta know your limitations.
Yeah.
To what degree does it matter if new associates are musicians?
We really prize that a lot, and we're almost all musicians in our company. There's a certain understanding of what we're doing that comes to the stage, to how important music is to us. How for me, music is this sacred thing. Mm-hmm. It's the most pure thing that there is. It's so, and you can just communicate with everybody in the world. So I try and infuse that part into everybody. So we get beautiful testimonials from famous people or non-famous, and we usually bring them around and tape them up or something, just kind of as morale, reminding us what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Because it's hard work what we're doing, and the handwork that we're doing in the back, there's a lot. There's it's not glamorous. Right. So, but we want to still try and relate that thing back to music and music making.
So this next question is previous business experience valued in new associates and hires? And if so, what type of experience is preferred? I guess that would vary between sales, marketing, and technical.
It definitely would, and probably, sales, we'd want some background, but experience is not always an indicator of how well somebody's going to do. Again, it goes back to attitude and hard work and smarts, how smart you are, mm-hmm. how intuitive you are. So in an interview, for me, it's hard to determine these things. And without experience, it's hard always to get hired. But you just have that good attitude, and you're going to move through an organization. Smart, hard work, and attitude. So I've found some people not experienced much better than experienced people.
Mm-hmm. Because of the attitude.
Yeah.
So the next three are kind of personal again, but they're really going to be probably of most help to the audience. Did you feel prepared when you entered the industry? And looking back, were you prepared? And I don't mean the performing industry. I mean your business.
Yes. If you get a chance to look at the TEDx talk,
and I'll put that up here too.
Okay. You're going to see that this thing that I went through taught me to have no fear. And that's why don't be afraid of failing. Don't be afraid of your output, your creative output.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it, whatever it is. And so often when we have a good idea, then we start thinking about it and we think of all the reasons why it's not a good idea or why it won't be as good as something else, and we end up not doing it. So this wave I was on was the opposite of that. Go for it, do it. Just do all your creative output. So when I got the opportunity, I didn't worry about it. Of course I wasn't prepared at all. I had never had a business. I had the music of business with Gary Burton at Berkeley. It's it was a boring class. I wasn't into it. I wanted to practice. But along the years, I had been reading all kind of books, and I read business books. I read
Mm-hmm.
the story of Coca-Cola or Warren Buffett's biography or all these different, not because I was a businessman or I was thinking of getting into business, but I wasn't prepared at all. But I wasn't afraid. I just did it, and it worked out fine. And in those early years, from New York to Louisiana, I was flying 7 or 8 times a year. I didn't have my noise reduction headphones yet.
Yeah.
And American Airlines was my university, my business university, because invariably I'm sitting next to a businessman,
Yep,
and
that's right.
and I would talk to them. And now I have my noise reduction. Nobody talks to anybody where I sit in the plane.
Yep.
And
I hear you. Well, it's just loud too. Being a musician,
oh man,
it's definitely. I use 25 dB plugs and then put those on.
yeah, I
The reduction.
recommend noise reduction
Yeah.
headphones because that white noise is tiring. It makes you
Oh,
tired.
yeah.
So you arrive relaxed.
So, if you could go back and change anything about your career or experiences, what would you change?
Yeah, off the top of my head, nothing.
Great.
It's been a fantastic ride.
So, lastly, what wisdom would you impart to young people desiring to create their own opportunities as an entrepreneur in your field?
You said it, creating your own opportunity, right?
Yep.
And if a young musician comes to me and says, how do I get around, how do I get hired and stuff, and I'm saying, you create your own opportunities by showing up. Number one way of creating opportunities is showing up, getting off the couch, go out and be there. Showing up is a lot. So go to every club in your town that has a band and get to know people if they let you sit in. If people are interested in the music product industry, they should be coming to the NAMM show. And there's a young person's wing of the NAMM show or something.
Yeah,
But,
for
you know,
music ed students, I think. Yeah, there's for college students, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. They should be doing that. And then in their state, if they have the educational show, they should go to that. People can't imagine all the jobs that are associated with the music products industry. So every job at any other company, you can do that, but you can be involved in making music, and the people that I meet in this industry are really, really nice, and our intentions are, I believe, very good. We're trying to make good products for people to make music with, and especially when you're dealing with kids, it's such an important thing. You don't want any kid to get down on music because they didn't have a product that worked. They didn't have an instrument that worked right. So it's a great industry, and that was the biggest surprise to me, how cool the people are in the industry.
Well, that's perfect. I really thanks so much for doing this. I'm going to make sure we link to the TED Talk and your website. Really enjoyed the conversation, and I'll see you next week.
Okay, what's next week? Midwest?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't go because I don't want to. I've got my booth there. I've got Colin and Danielle.
I'll see Colin next week.
Because I'm afraid of getting snowed out at that Chicago airport and not being able to get home to my family. But I'll see you I'll be at the Gen Show, the NAMM Show, the TMEA. All right.
That's it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.